The door clicked shut behind them, leaving Sarah Matthews, CEO of Vertex Technologies, alone with single father Jack Reynolds in the small mountain cabin. The snowstorm outside had stranded them after their business meeting ran late. Sarah's eyes widened as she surveyed the rustic room with its crackling fireplace, worn leather armchair, and single queen-sized bed. "This is my room," she said, her voice carrying the same authority she used in boardrooms, "and there's only one bed." Jack ran a hand through his dark hair, his eyes meeting hers with unexpected warmth. "Maybe there's room for both of us." Neither could have imagined that this accidental night together would change everything, or that by morning, one of them would be fighting for their life. Sarah Matthews had built her tech empire from nothing, becoming one of Silicon Valley's most formidable CEOs by age 35. Her reputation for being ice-cold in negotiations was legendary. What the business world didn't see was how empty her penthouse apartment felt each night, how the weight of success had slowly hollowed her out from the inside. Jack Reynolds had once been on a similar trajectory until his wife died 3 years ago, leaving him to raise their daughter Emma alone. He'd stepped back from his executive role to become a consultant, working remotely to be there for his little girl. His meeting with Vertex Technologies was supposed to be routine. Just another client seeking his expertise on sustainable manufacturing practices. The snowstorm wasn't in anyone's forecast. "I can sleep in the chair," Jack offered, already removing his suit jacket. "I've crashed in worse places." Sarah crossed her arms. "Don't be ridiculous. You're 6'something. You'll be a pretzel by morning." "Then what do you suggest?" His voice held no challenge, just genuine curiosity. Sarah surprised herself by laughing. "I haven't shared a bed with anyone since college. I'm told I hog the covers." "I'm told I snore," Jack countered with a half-smile. "So I guess we're even." As they awkwardly prepared for bed, Sarah found herself stealing glances at Jack. There was something about him, a quiet strength, a gentleness she rarely encountered in her cutthroat world. When he took a call from his daughter to say goodnight, the tenderness in his voice made something shift inside her chest. "Emma okay?" Sarah asked when he hung up. "She's with my sister. Probably eating way too much ice cream and staying up past bedtime." His smile faded. "She worries when I'm not home." "Because of your wife?" Jack nodded, his eyes suddenly distant. "Kids are smart. They understand more than we think." The fireplace crackled, casting dancing shadows across the cabin walls. Outside, the wind howled, but inside, a different kind of storm was brewing. One of unexpected connection between two souls who had forgotten what it felt like to be truly seen. "Tell me about her," Sarah said softly, surprising herself with the request. "Your wife." Jack's eyes widened slightly, but then his expression softened. He reached for his wallet and pulled out a worn photograph. "This is Melissa. We met in college, she was studying marine biology. Brilliant mind. The kindest person I've ever known." Sarah studied the smiling woman in the photo. Honey blonde hair, laughing eyes, arms wrapped around a younger Jack. "She's beautiful." "She was," Jack agreed, his voice thick with emotion. "Pancreatic cancer. By the time they caught it." He trailed off, the unspoken words hanging heavy between them. "I'm sorry," Sarah said, meaning it more deeply than she expected. "What about you?" Jack asked after a moment. "The tabloids are always linking you with some tech billionaire or Hollywood actor, but I've never seen you confirm any of it." Sarah snorted. "The tabloids need to sell copies. The truth is much less exciting. I work. I sleep. Sometimes I remember to eat." "No one special?" "There was someone, once," Sarah admitted, staring into her mug. "David. We were together through business school. He proposed the day I got the funding for Vertex." "What happened?" Sarah's laugh was hollow. "He expected me to choose the company or him. Said he didn't sign up to be with someone who'd always put work first." She shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant despite the old wound. "He wasn't wrong. They talked for hours, sitting cross-legged on opposite ends of the bed. Sarah found herself sharing things she'd never told anyone about growing up poor, about the sacrifices she'd made to get where she was, about the loneliness that sometimes felt like a physical presence beside her in her empty king-sized bed at home. Success was supposed to feel different, she admitted, staring into her mug of instant coffee. I have everything I thought I wanted, but sometimes it feels like nothing at all, Jack finished. Their eyes met, and something electric passed between them. My sister calls it the achievement hangover, Jack said. You climb the mountain, plant your flag, and then realize you're just standing alone in the cold. Sarah felt her throat tighten. Exactly. And everyone's looking up at you, expecting you to be so damn happy about it. While you're just trying not to freeze to death, Jack added softly. The conversation shifted to lighter topics: favorite movies. She loved old noir films. He was a secret musical fan. Worst business trips. She'd once been stuck in Dubai for a week during a sandstorm. He'd had his presentation materials stolen by monkeys in Bali. Childhood dreams. She'd wanted to be an astronaut. He'd been determined to play professional baseball. Wait, you were scouted? Sarah asked, incredulous. Jack nodded, a hint of pride in his smile. 3 teams. Blew out my niece's senior year of college. Game over. So you became a sustainability expert instead? Quite the career pivot. Life rarely goes as planned, Jack said, his eyes finding hers. Sometimes the detours lead us exactly where we need to be. What neither knew was that back in the city, Sarah's board of directors was plotting her removal, and Jack's consulting report was the weapon they planned to use against her. As midnight approached, the temperature in the cabin dropped. Sarah shivered, pulling her borrowed blanket tighter around her shoulders. The generator must be running low on fuel, Jack observed, getting up to add more logs to the fireplace. It's going to get colder before morning. Sarah watched him tend the fire, the flames illuminating his profile. There was something so capable about him, so present in a way most of the men in her world weren't. They were always chasing the next deal, the next million, the next rung on the ladder, just as she was. But Jack seemed to inhabit his life fully, even with its tragedies and detours. We should probably try to sleep, she suggested when he returned to the bed. Who knows when this storm will let up? They settled awkwardly under the covers, maintaining a careful distance between them. Sarah lay rigid, hyper-aware of Jack's presence beside her, of his clean, masculine scent, of the gentle rhythm of his breathing. Sarah? His voice came softly through the darkness. Yes? Thank you. She turned her head toward him, confused. For what? For being real with me tonight. I know you don't let many people see that side of you. Something warm unfurled in her chest. How would you know that? Because I recognize the armor. I wore it too, after Melissa died. Sarah was silent for a long moment. Does it get easier? Taking it off? Yes, he said simply. But you have to be willing to risk getting hurt. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows. Without thinking, Sarah moved closer to him, seeking warmth. Jack hesitated only a moment before wrapping an arm around her. The simple human contact, something she denied herself for so long, brought unexpected tears to her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered, embarrassed by her reaction. Don't be, he murmured, his breath warm against her hair. Sometimes we forget how much we need this. Just to be held. In the safety of darkness, with the storm raging outside, Sarah allowed herself to melt into his embrace. For the first time in years, she felt the hard edges of her carefully constructed persona soften. Sleep claimed her quickly, dreamless and deep. Morning came with pale sunlight filtering through frost-covered windows. Sarah woke to find herself curled against Jack's chest, his arm draped protectively around her. For the first time in years, she'd slept through the night without waking. She carefully extracted herself, watching him sleep for a moment. His face was softer in repose, the worry lines around his eyes less pronounced. Something tugged at her heart, something dangerous and unfamiliar. Sarah Matthews didn't do vulnerability. She didn't do connection. And she certainly didn't fall for consultants with sad eyes and daughters who ate too much ice cream. The storm had passed, leaving behind a pristine white landscape that glittered in the morning sun. Sarah stood by the window, coffee in hand, trying to process the confusing emotions swirling inside her. She was a woman who made billion-dollar decisions without blinking, yet the thought of acknowledging what had happened between her and Jack last night terrified her. Morning, Jack's sleep-roughened voice came from behind her.
"How long have you been up?" Sarah turned, offering a small smile. "Not long. The road should be clear soon."
"Right," he nodded, running a hand through his tousled hair.
Back to reality.
Something in his tone made her heart sink.
"Jack, about last night."
"We don't have to make it a thing," he interrupted gently.
"I get it. You're Sarah Matthews, CEO extraordinaire. I'm just a consultant with baggage."
"That's not what I was going to say," she protested, though she wasn't entirely sure what she had been about to say. Jack's phone buzzed, breaking the moment. His expression darkened as he read the message.
"It's Dan Holloway. He wants my report by end of day. Is that a problem?"
Sarah asked, instantly shifting back into CEO mode. "No," Jack said, but something in his eyes made her uneasy.
"Just tight timing."
The drive back to the city was quiet, both of them processing the strange intimacy of the night before.
When Jack's phone rang, Sarah couldn't help overhearing his side of the conversation. "Yes, I'm finishing the report today."
"No, I haven't changed my assessment." "Because it's the truth, Dan."
Sarah's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Dan Holloway was her CFO and her most vocal critic on the board.
"Everything okay?" she asked when he hung up. "Just work stuff," Jack said, but he wouldn't meet her eyes. They parted at the Vertex Technologies building with an awkward handshake and promises to be in touch that rang hollow to both their ears. Sarah watched Jack walk away, fighting the urge to call him back, to demand answers about the phone call, to ask if he'd felt it too, that rare connection that had sparked between them. Instead, she straightened her shoulders and headed into her building, nodding at security and stepping into her private elevator. By the time she reached the executive floor, CEO Sarah Matthews was firmly back in place, the vulnerable woman from the cabin locked safely away. The next few days passed in a blur of meetings and decisions. Sarah threw herself into work with renewed intensity, as if trying to outrun the memory of Jack's arms around her. She told herself it was nothing.
A moment of weakness brought on by unusual circumstances.
She'd built her empire by never showing weakness, and she wasn't about to start now. But late at night, alone in her penthouse with its floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering city, she found herself wondering what Jack was doing, if he was reading Emma a bedtime story, if he ever thought about her. 3 days later, Sarah sat in her office reviewing Jack's report. Her stomach dropped with each page. His assessment was damning. Vertex's manufacturing processes were outdated, wasteful, and ultimately unsustainable.
Implementing his recommendations would cost millions and temporarily tank their stock price.
It was exactly what the board needed to force her out. When her assistant announced Jack was there to see her, Sarah's first instinct was fury. She'd let him in not just to her hotel room but past her carefully constructed walls, and he'd betrayed her. "You knew what this report would do," she said the moment he walked in, her voice deadly quiet.
Jack's face fell. "Sarah. Was that the plan all along? Get close to the Ice Queen, make her trust you, then stab her in the back? That's not what happened and you know it."
His voice remained calm, which only infuriated her more. "I built this company from nothing," she said, her voice breaking despite her best efforts.
"Do you have any idea what it took for someone like me to get here? How many men like you told me I couldn't do it?"
Jack stepped closer. "I told the truth in my report because I respect you too much to lie."
"But there's something you need to know about Dan Holloway." What Jack revealed next left Sarah reeling.
Dan had been siphoning funds from the company for years, hiding his tracks in the outdated systems Sarah had been too busy to upgrade. Jack had discovered the discrepancies while preparing his report. Discrepancies that pointed to millions in embezzled funds. "He wanted me to bury it," Jack said. When I refused, he threatened to use my report against you anyway.
Sarah sank into her chair. Why are you telling me this? Why help me? Jack's eyes softened. Because that night in the cabin, I saw the real Sarah Matthews. Not the CEO, not the Ice Queen. Just Sarah.
And she's worth fighting for.
The revelation about Dan hit Sarah like a physical blow.
She'd hired him herself, had trusted him with her company's finances for 5 years. The betrayal stung all the more because she prided herself on being an excellent judge of character. I need proof, she said, her mind already racing through contingency plans.
Jack pulled out a flash drive. It's all here.
Financial records, emails, even recordings of my conversations with him where he essentially admitted what he was doing. Sarah took the drive, their fingers brushing momentarily.
You recorded him?
I've been around long enough to know when something doesn't smell right, Jack said with a grim smile.
And Dan Holloway reeks.
They spent the next hours huddled in her office, poring over the evidence. Sarah canceled her remaining meetings, ignoring her assistant's concerned looks. As the sun set over the city, casting long shadows across her office, the full extent of Dan's embezzlement became clear. 7 million, Sarah whispered, staring at the final tally.
How did I miss this?
Jack's hand covered hers briefly.
You trusted him. That's not a weakness, Sarah. In this world, it is.
She pulled her hand away, standing to pace the room.
The board meeting is tomorrow. Dan knows I've seen your report by now. He'll be ready to use it against me.
Then we need to be ready too, Jack said, his voice steady.
I'll be there. Sarah stopped pacing to look at him. Why would you do that? This could get ugly. Your reputation
is built on integrity, Jack finished. I won't let him use my work to hurt you or this company. Something shifted between them in that moment, a recognition that whatever had started in that cabin wasn't just about attraction or loneliness. It was about seeing each other clearly, about recognizing a kindred spirit beneath the roles they played.
Thank you, Sarah said simply.
Jack nodded, his eyes never leaving hers.
Always. The next morning, Sarah dressed with particular care.
Her sharpest suit, her highest heels, her most intimidating shade of red lipstick.
Armor, all of it.
But as she fastened her mother's old watch around her wrist, the only piece of jewelry she ever wore, she thought of Jack's words about taking off the armor, about being willing to risk getting hurt.
The board meeting was set for 10 a.m.
At 9:45, Jack texted her, in the building. You've got this. Those 3 simple words steadied her more than she cared to admit. Dan arrived early, his usual smug confidence firmly in place.
Sarah, he greeted with a nod. Tough day ahead.
I hope there are no hard feelings.
None at all, she replied coolly.
I believe in letting the facts speak for themselves. His smile faltered slightly, but he recovered quickly.
Indeed. That's why we're here, isn't it?
The boardroom filled with the company's 12 directors, most of whom Sarah had personally selected over the years. She'd always prided herself on building a diverse board that challenged her thinking. Now she wondered how many might have been swayed by Dan's influence. Jack slipped in just as the meeting was called to order, taking his seat against the wall. Their eyes met briefly, and he gave her an almost imperceptible nod.
The next month was the hardest of Sarah's career. The board meeting where she exposed Dan's embezzlement scheme turned into a corporate bloodbath. 3 board members resigned.
The stock took a temporary hit.
The press had a field day.
But Sarah implemented Jack's recommendations anyway, pouring resources into sustainable manufacturing processes that would eventually become Vertex's greatest strength. She worked 18-hour days, fighting for her company's future while trying to ignore the memory of one peaceful night in Jack's arms.
The weeks following Dan's exposure were brutal.
Sarah faced questions from shareholders, scrutiny from the press, and the monumental task of rebuilding trust in Vertex's leadership. The board appointed an interim CFO, a sharp-eyed woman named Priya Sharma who had no patience for financial sleight of hand. You should have caught this sooner, Priya told Sarah bluntly during their first meeting.
I know, Sarah admitted, appreciating the honesty. I got too focused on growth and innovation. I delegated the financial oversight when I should have stayed more involved. Well, it won't happen again on my watch, Priya promised. And for what it's worth, implementing these sustainability recommendations. Smart move. Expensive now, but it'll pay off big time in 3 years. Sarah smiled faintly. That's what Jack said. Speaking of your consultant, Priya said, eyebrow raised. Word around the office is there's more than professional admiration there. The rumor mill needs to mind its own business, Sarah replied coolly. But the truth was, she missed Jack. They'd exchanged a few professional emails about implementing his recommendations, but the warmth of their night together seemed to have evaporated in the harsh light of corporate crisis. Several times, Sarah had drafted personal messages to him, only to delete them unsent. What would she even say? Thank you for saving my company? Sorry I accused you of betrayal? I can't stop thinking about how it felt to fall asleep in your arms. None of it seemed right. So she buried herself in work instead, focusing on rebuilding Vertex from the inside out. Jack, meanwhile, was facing his own challenges. Dan Holloway, out on bail pending his trial for embezzlement, had made it his mission to smear Jack's professional reputation. Several potential clients had canceled meetings, citing concerns about his methods. The consulting firm he partnered with was getting nervous about the association. It'll blow over, his sister Maggie assured him as they watched Emma play in the backyard one Sunday afternoon. Once Dan goes to trial and the truth comes out, everyone will know you did the right thing. Maybe, Jack said, unconvinced. But that could be months away. In the meantime, I've got a mortgage and a kid to support. And a broken heart? Maggie suggested gently. Jack shot her a look. Don't start. Come on, Jackie. I haven't seen you look at anyone the way you talk about Sarah Matthews since Melissa. And don't tell me there's nothing there. You practically glow when you mention her name. It doesn't matter, Jack sighed. She's rebuilding her company. I'm trying to salvage my career. The timing couldn't be worse. When is timing ever perfect? Maggie challenged. Life's too short to wait for perfect conditions. Melissa taught us that, didn't she? The mention of his late wife sent a familiar pang through Jack's chest. But for the first time, it was accompanied by something else, a sense that perhaps it was time to truly move forward, to honor Melissa's memory by embracing life again. That evening, after tucking Emma into bed, Jack sat on his porch with a beer, staring at his phone. Before he could overthink it, he typed a message to Sarah, "How are you holding up?" 3 simple words. He hit send before he could change his mind. Sarah was reviewing quarterly projections when her phone buzzed. Seeing Jack's name on the screen made her heart skip in a way that was both thrilling and terrifying. She read his message 3 times before responding, "Surviving." "You?" His reply came quickly, "Same. Emma asks about you sometimes." Sarah smiled, surprised. "She barely knows me. Kids have good instincts about people. She says you have kind eyes." Sarah felt a warmth spread through her chest. Smart kid. The smartest. She also says I make sad pancakes now. Sad pancakes? Apparently my pancakes reflect my emotional state. Currently they're droopy. Sarah laughed out loud, drawing curious glances from her assistant. That sounds serious. Very serious. Medical intervention may be required. Their text conversation continued late into the night, gradually shifting from playful banter to deeper waters. Jack told her about Dan's attempts to damage his reputation. Sarah shared her struggles to rebuild trust at Vertex. "I miss our talks," she finally admitted, staring at the words on her screen with a mixture of terror and relief. His response made her breath catch. "I miss you, Sarah." Not just the talks. Emma was the one who finally brought them back together. "My daddy misses you," the 7-year-old announced when she appeared in Sarah's office one afternoon, having apparently slipped away from Jack during a building tour. Sarah knelt to the little girl's level. Does he now? Emma nodded solemnly.
He looks at his phone a lot, like he wants to call someone. And he makes sad pancakes.
Sad pancakes?
They're all droopy.
Not happy and round like when he's not sad. Sarah couldn't help but laugh. That is serious.
Very serious, Emma agreed.
I think you should come over for dinner and fix it.
Sarah glanced up to see Jack rushing into her office, looking mortified.
Emma!
I told you to wait by the elevator. His eyes met Sarah's, a flush creeping up his neck.
I'm so sorry.
We were meeting with your sustainability team, and she just
invited me to dinner, Sarah finished, her lips twitching with amusement.
Something about sad pancakes that need fixing. Jack closed his eyes briefly.
I'm going to die of embarrassment right here in your office.
Daddy, don't die.
Emma exclaimed, genuinely alarmed.
Sarah laughed, the sound surprising even herself. When was the last time she'd laughed like that, freely, without restraint?
I'd hate to be responsible for your father's demise, Emma.
Perhaps I should accept your invitation.
Jack's eyes flew open. You don't have to.
I want to, Sarah said softly. If the invitation still stands. That night, Sarah found herself standing outside Jack's modest suburban home, a bottle of wine in one hand and her heart in her throat. When he opened the door, the look of surprise and hope on his face nearly undid her.
Emma invited me, she explained. Something about sad pancakes? Jack's laugh was warm and real. That little matchmaker.
I should have known she was up to something when she insisted on wearing her fancy dress for dinner. Dinner was chaotic and perfect. Emma spilled her juice twice, Jack burned the garlic bread, and Sarah discovered she was terrible at the 7-year-old's favorite board game. But sitting there in their small, cluttered dining room, Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced since childhood, belonging. Later, after Emma went to bed, they sat on the porch swing, a comfortable silence between them.
I was scared, Sarah finally admitted. Not just of losing my company. Of this. Of wanting something I might lose. Jack's hand found hers in the darkness. I can't promise we won't lose things, Sarah. Life taught me that lesson the hard way. But I can promise that some things are worth the risk.
She turned to face him, vulnerability and strength mingling in her gaze. I've spent my whole life building walls to protect myself. I'm not sure I know how to live without them anymore. You don't have to tear them all down at once, Jack said gently.
Maybe just a window to start.
Or a door. Sarah smiled, leaning her head against his shoulder.
A door sounds manageable.
Their relationship developed slowly, deliberately. Sarah joined their Sunday pancake breakfasts, which Emma proudly declared were getting happier. Jack attended Vertex's charity gala as Sarah's date, standing proudly by her side as she was honored for the company's new commitment to sustainable practices. There were challenges, of course. Sarah's work schedule remained demanding. Jack struggled to rebuild his consulting business in the wake of the Holloway scandal. They argued sometimes. About priorities, about boundaries, about the best way to help Emma with her science project. But they also learned to compromise. Sarah blocked off her weekends as sacred family time. Jack set up a home office that allowed him to be available for Emma while building his new, ethically focused consulting firm. They learned each other's rhythms, respecting the space each needed while creating something new together. 6 months later, Sarah found herself in another cabin, this one by choice. Jack had surprised her with a weekend getaway to celebrate Vertex's successful transition to sustainable manufacturing and their soaring stock price. When she opened the bedroom door, she couldn't help but laugh. "This is my room," she said, echoing their first night together, "and there's only one bed." Jack pulled her close, his eyes full of love. "Maybe there's room for both of us. For always." As he knelt down on one knee, Emma peeked out from her hiding place in the closet, giggling and holding a small velvet box. Sarah's answer was yes before he even asked the question.
Today, Sarah Matthews Reynolds still runs Vertex Technologies, now the industry leader in sustainable manufacturing.
But she leaves the office by 5 most days, trading boardroom battles for family dinners and bedtime stories. The Ice Queen, it turns out, had simply been waiting for the right people to thaw her heart. Jack's consulting firm specializes in ethical business practices and corporate transparency, with a client list that now includes some of the biggest names in tech. He works primarily from home, scheduling his meetings around Emma's school events and Sarah's rare free afternoons. Their story isn't perfect, whose is? There are still difficult days, moments of doubt, old fears that resurface. But each night, they fall asleep in each other's arms, no longer separated by the careful distance of strangers or the weight of their separate burdens.
Sometimes, on snowy evenings, they tell Emma the story of how they met editing out the corporate espionage parts until she's older, and how sometimes the most unexpected detours lead exactly where you're meant to be.
The best things in life, Sarah often says, are rarely part of the original business plan. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us what truly matters in life. We'd love to know which country you're watching from. Drop it in the comments below.